Why angel numbers appear before major life changes. The moment before everything changes. Something stopped you today. Not a sound, not a person, a number. And the strangest part is not that you saw it. The strangest part is what happened inside you the moment you did. That pause, that pull, that fraction of a second where something deeper than your thoughts recognized something it could not explain. You have felt it before, that quiet certainty that this was not random, that whatever you just saw was placed there, precisely in that moment, for a reason you are not yet equipped to name. And then your mind stepped in, as it always does, and offered you the most comfortable explanation available. Coincidence, pattern recognition, the brain doing what brains do. And for a moment, maybe you believed it, because believing it was easier than sitting with the weight of what the alternative might mean. Because the alternative means that something invisible has been paying attention to you, and that is a thought the mind does not know how to hold without trembling. But here you are, still asking, still feeling the pull, still unable to fully close the door your soul keeps pushing open, still returning again and again to the question your logic cannot answer and your heart cannot release. What if the discomfort you have been carrying, the uncertainty, the sense that something is shifting beneath the surface of your life without your permission? What if it was not a problem to be solved? What if it was a signal? What if the very restlessness you have been trying to quiet was the most important message you have ever been sent? What if the sleepless nights, the sudden pauses in the middle of ordinary moments, the inexplicable feeling that something is about to change? What if none of that was noise? What if all of it was signal? Here is what the mind cannot accept but the soul already knows. You do not find angel numbers. They find you. And they do not find everyone. They find the ones standing at the edge of something enormous. The ones whose lives are about to move in ways the present moment cannot yet contain. The ones the universe has chosen to prepare before the ground shifts beneath their feet. The ones who are, right now, in the most significant season of their entire becoming, even if nothing on the surface of their life has yet confirmed it, and they are finding you, now. With this frequency, with this persistence, with this feeling that no rational explanation has ever been able to fully dissolve. Why now? That is the question. That is the thread running through everything you are about to hear. And the answer, the real answer, the one that will make every repeated number in your recent memory suddenly make complete and undeniable sense, will not arrive until the very end of this video. Because some truths can only be received once the soul has been fully prepared to hold them. You are being prepared right now. Stay. The language the universe speaks when words aren't enough. What if the most important messages you will ever receive were never designed to arrive through words? Think about that for a moment. Every system of communication you were taught, language, logic, reason, was built by and for the human mind. It operates on the surface. It translates experience into symbols that other minds can process. It is extraordinarily efficient at conveying information between two people who share the same cultural code. But there is a problem. The most important things, the things that exist at the level of the soul, do not have a cultural code. They exist at a frequency that predates every language ever spoken by a human mouth. There is an older system, one that predates language by millennia, one that does not speak to the mind at all. It speaks to something beneath it. The ancient Hermetic philosophers understood this. They taught that the universe is not a collection of random matter moving through empty space. It is a living intelligence, expressing itself through pattern, through resonance, through the precise and purposeful repetition of form. Numbers to them were not tools of calculation. They were the skeleton of creation itself, the structural language through which existence organizes meaning. Before the first word was written, before the first alphabet was conceived, numbers were already present in the architecture of the cosmos, already embedded in the spiraling of galaxies, already encoded in the geometry of a single living cell. Sacred geometry. The Fibonacci sequence spiraling through galaxies and seashells, and the chambers of the human heart. the mathematical precision encoded in the orbit of planets, in the growth of cells, in the architecture of ancient temples built by civilizations separated by oceans but unified by the same invisible intelligence. The golden ratio appearing in the proportions of the human body, in the unfurling of a fern, in the structure of a hurricane seen from space. These are not coincidences dressed as patterns. They are the universe signing its own work. This is not mysticism dressed as science. This is the oldest observation in human history, that reality speaks in pattern, and that some patterns are not random. When you see a number repeated, the universe is not sending you a generic spiritual greeting. It is using the only language that can bypass your defenses, slip past your skepticism, and land directly in the part of you that has never forgotten how to listen. Because your mind can dismiss a feeling. It can rationalize a thought. It can explain away a dream. It can construct an argument against almost any evidence you place before it. But it cannot fully silence the recognition that ignites when a pattern appears with too much precision, too much timing, too much undeniable placement to be nothing. That recognition is not superstition. It is the soul receiving a transmission in its native language. And the transmission is not vague. It is not a general reminder that the universe exists and wishes you well. It is a specific message, calibrated to your specific frequency, arriving at a specific moment for a specific reason. The universe does not speak in generalizations to souls it is actively guiding. It speaks in the language of the precise, the timely, and the undeniable. The question is no longer whether the universe is speaking. The question is whether you are willing to understand what it is actually saying. Why your soul notices what your mind tries to dismiss. There is a war that happens inside you every single time you see a repeated number and feel that pull. Every time something in you says this means something and something else immediately responds, don't be ridiculous. That war is not between belief and disbelief. It is between two entirely different systems of knowing. And understanding the difference between them is what changes everything. The mind was designed for survival. It categorizes, it calculates, it seeks the most efficient explanation for any given phenomenon and moves on. It is extraordinarily good at what it was built to do. But it was not built to receive transmissions from the invisible architecture of your life. It was not built to track the meaningful coincidences that Carl Jung spent decades studying and ultimately concluded could not be explained by causality alone. The mind is an instrument of navigation within the known, but the most important territory of your life exists beyond the known, and no instrument designed for the familiar can guide you accurately through the unfamiliar. Jung called it synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence. The moment when an outer event and an inner state align with a precision that defies rational explanation, not because reality has broken down, but because reality is operating on a level of intelligence the logical mind was never equipped to perceive. He understood something that changed the course of psychology forever, that the psyche is not contained within the skull, that there is a layer of consciousness, what he called the collective unconscious, that exists beneath individual identity, beneath culture, beneath language, connecting every human being to a field of meaning far larger than any single life. Jung did not arrive at this conclusion lightly. He spent decades documenting cases, studying patterns, tracking the moments where inner and outer reality collided with a precision that statistics alone could not explain. And his conclusion was not tentative, it was definitive. Meaning is woven into the structure of reality itself, and it is that layer, the deep layer, the one beneath thought and belief and the endless commentary of the conscious mind, that responds when you see the numbers. Not your thoughts, not your beliefs, something deeper, something that has been quietly tracking the shape of your life, the arc of your growth, the distance between who you are and who you came here to become, for far longer than your conscious mind has been paying attention. This is why you feel the pull before you think the thought. This is why the recognition arrives as a physical sensation, a pause, a chill, a sudden stillness, before your mind has had time to form an opinion about it. The soul does not need to deliberate. It does not need evidence, it operates on resonance. And when a pattern appears that carries the frequency of your next becoming, the soul recognizes it the way a tuning fork recognizes its own note. instantly, completely, without the need for proof. The mind will always try to protect you from the disorientation of that recognition, because if the numbers mean something, then the change is real. And if the change is real, then the life you have been carefully managing is already in the process of becoming something else. And that, for the mind, is the most threatening truth of all. But your soul is not threatened. Your soul has been waiting for exactly this, the energetic signature of transition. Every major change in a human life has a before, a season that arrives before the visible shift, before the conversation that alters everything, before the ending that was secretly a beginning, a season that feels like pressure without a clear source, like standing at the edge of something vast without being able to see what lies on the other side, like waking up in the morning with a weight that has no name and no obvious cause, a weight that rest does not lift and distraction does not dissolve. You may be in that season right now, and if you are, you already know it. Not because anything catastrophic has happened, but because something beneath the surface of your daily life has begun to feel different, charged, unsettled in a way that rest does not resolve and distraction does not dissolve. As if the architecture of your existence is reorganizing itself at a level you cannot quite see but can absolutely feel. As if the furniture of your inner world is being moved in the dark and you keep reaching for things that are no longer where they used to be. This is not anxiety. This is not instability. This is the energetic signature of transition, and it is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the entire spectrum of human consciousness. Most people, when they feel it, immediately search for the problem. They scan their relationships, their career, their health, their finances, looking for the source of the unease so they can fix it. But the unease does not have a source in the outer world. It has a source in the invisible world, in the place where the next version of your life is already taking shape. Here is what is actually happening beneath that feeling. Change does not begin when it becomes visible. It begins long before, at the level of vibration, at the level of frequency, where the new configuration of your life is already assembling itself in the invisible field before a single outer circumstance has shifted. The physical world is always the last dimension to reflect what has already been decided in the energetic one. And the gap between those two realities, the one already forming and the one not yet visible, is precisely where the discomfort lives. Angel numbers appear in that gap. They are not pointing toward a future that might happen. They are confirming a shift that is already in motion. They are vibrational markers placed along the timeline of your becoming, not to show you where you are going, but to confirm that the current you are already moving in is real, is purposeful, and is being held by an intelligence far greater than the fear that is trying to convince you otherwise. This is why the numbers intensify during the most uncertain seasons, not because uncertainty is a sign of spiritual favor, but because uncertainty is what transition feels like from the inside. The caterpillar inside the chrysalis has no evidence that it will become a butterfly. It only has the undeniable reality of its own dissolution. And yet the intelligence of the process continues, regardless of whether the caterpillar understands it. The transformation does not pause to explain itself. It simply continues because the agreement was made at a level deeper than understanding. You are not dissolving, you are reorganizing. And the numbers appearing in your life right now are the universe's way of doing what no human voice in your life may currently be able to do, confirming that it is working, that you are not lost, that the pressure you are feeling is not punishment. It is proof of progress. What each repeated pattern is actually trying to tell you. Not all numbers carry the same message, and the patterns appearing in your life right now are not random selections from a spiritual menu. They are specific transmissions, calibrated to the exact frequency of what your soul is moving through and what it is moving toward. This is not about memorizing definitions. This is about understanding the vibrational instruction embedded in each pattern, the directional signal it carries, the specific way it is asking you to orient your energy in order to meet what is already coming. Each number is a frequency, and each frequency carries a precise instruction for the soul standing at the crossroads of its own transformation. When you see 111, the universe is delivering a single, urgent message, Your thoughts are creating with unusual speed and power right now. The field of your life is exceptionally receptive. What you are focusing on is being amplified. This is not a moment for fear, for rehearsing what could go wrong, for mentally revisiting what has already been lost. This is a moment for radical intentionality. The door between thought and manifestation is open wider than it usually is, and 111 is the universe's way of saying, be deliberate, be conscious. What you plant in this moment will grow. What you water with your attention will flourish. Choose carefully what receives your focus because the field is listening with unusual sensitivity. When you see 222, something different is being communicated. Patience, trust. The confirmation that what you have already set in motion is growing beneath the surface in the invisible, in the place where roots form before any green thing appears above the soil. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are in the gestation phase of something that requires time to become what it is meant to be. 222 asks only one thing of you. Do not pull the seed from the ground to check if it is growing. The checking is the interference. The trust is the nourishment. When 333 appears, it is the signal of divine presence and creative activation. The number of the Trinity, of body, mind, and soul in alignment, of the creative force of the universe moving through a human life with unusual clarity. When 333 finds you, something in you is ready to be expressed that has been held back, suppressed, or dismissed. A truth, a gift, a version of yourself that has been waiting for permission. 333 is that permission. Whatever you have been afraid to say, create, or become, the frequency of this number is the universe removing the last obstacle between you and its expression. 444 carries the frequency of absolute foundation and divine protection. When life feels most unstable, when the ground beneath your feet seems uncertain, 444 is the reminder that you are held, that the invisible architecture supporting your life is stronger than any circumstance currently threatening to convince you otherwise. You are not alone in this. You were never alone in this. The support you need exists at a level deeper than what is currently visible. The hands holding you are simply invisible to the eyes that look only at the surface. 555 is perhaps the most electric of all the angel numbers that appear before major life changes. It is the number of acceleration, of transformation already in full motion. When 555 appears repeatedly, it is not a gentle suggestion that change might be coming. It is a direct confirmation that it is already here, moving through the layers of your life at a speed that may feel disorienting from the inside. The instruction of 555 is not to slow down, not to resist, not to grip more tightly to what was. It is to release, to trust the current, to understand that what is being swept away was always meant to go, and what is arriving was always meant to find you. The intensity of the current is proportional to the magnitude of what it is carrying toward you. 777 carries the deepest spiritual resonance. It is the number of alignment between the human path and the divine plan. When 777 appears, something remarkable is being communicated. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The choices you have made, even the ones that felt uncertain, even the ones you second-guessed, have led you with precision to these exact coordinates of your becoming. 777 does not appear to people who are lost. It appears to people who are so aligned with their soul's path that the universe itself pauses to acknowledge it. It is a standing ovation delivered in the language of pattern. 888 speaks the language of abundance and energetic return. It is the number of infinite flow, of cycles completing and new ones opening, of the recognition that what you have given, in love, in effort, in faith, in courage, is now returning to you in form. When 888 finds you, something is closing, not as an ending but as a harvest. The work was real. The investment was real. And what is arriving is the material and spiritual expression of a frequency you have been building toward, often without realizing it. The figure 8, turned on its side, becomes infinity. And that is precisely the nature of the energy now moving toward you. And 999, the most profound of completions. When 999 appears, A chapter of your life is ending at the soul level, not as loss, not as failure, but as graduation. Something that was meant to teach you has finished teaching. Something that was meant to shape you has done its work. The relationship, the identity, the belief, the version of yourself that carried you through what you needed to survive has completed its purpose. 999 is not a goodbye. It is the universe acknowledging that you have become, through everything you have lived, someone who is now ready for what comes next. And what comes next cannot enter until you release what this chapter was. Not because the past was not valuable, but because your hands are too full of it to receive what is waiting. Look at the numbers that have been appearing in your life, not as a list to be decoded, but as a direction to be felt. They are not telling you what to think. They are showing you how to move. The role of chaos before clarity. What if the most disorienting season of your life is also the most spiritually significant one? What if the moments when the numbers appear most insistently, when life feels most uncertain, most painful, most impossible to navigate, are not the moments farthest from the divine plan, but the moments most deeply inside it? This is the truth that the mind finds most difficult to accept, because the mind equates peace with progress and chaos with failure. The mind believes that if things were going the way they were supposed to go, they would feel manageable, ordered, within the range of what it can control. The mind has constructed an entire belief system around the idea that spiritual alignment should feel comfortable, that if you are on the right path, the path should be smooth, that difficulty is a sign of deviation, that suffering is a sign of doing something wrong. But the soul operates by entirely different laws. The Hermetic principle of polarity teaches that light and darkness are not opposites. They are two expressions of the same spectrum. That what appears to be chaos from one vantage point is reorganization from another. That the breakdown is not the enemy of the breakthrough. It is the mechanism of it, the very process by which the new becomes possible. You cannot have the breakthrough without first having the breakdown of what the breakthrough is breaking through. Every seed must crack open before it can grow. Every caterpillar must completely dissolve before it can transform. Every dawn requires the full darkness of the night before it. This is not poetry. This is the structural pattern of transformation at every level of existence, from the biological to the cosmic to the deeply, irreducibly personal. The dissolution is not a detour from the destination. The dissolution is how you arrive. When angel numbers appear in your darkest seasons, in the middle of the loss, in the middle of the confusion, in the middle of the night when the weight of everything feels unbearable and the distance between who you are and who you thought you would be feels insurmountable, they are not appearing as a consolation prize. They are not the universe offering you a spiritual participation trophy for suffering beautifully. They are appearing because the chaos you are experiencing is the most active phase of your transformation. Because dissolution always precedes reconstruction. Because the old structure of your life, the one that no longer fits who you are becoming, must release its form before the new one can take shape. And the numbers are the universe's way of saying, I know this does not look like progress from where you are standing, but from where I am standing, it looks exactly like what it is supposed to look like. The most important thing you can do in the middle of the chaos is not to fix it, not to force resolution before resolution is ready, not to rebuild the old structure out of fear simply because the absence of structure is uncomfortable. The impulse to reconstruct quickly, to fill the empty space before you have understood what the empty space is making room for, is the most common way that people accidentally interrupt their own transformation. The most important thing you can do is trust that what is falling away was always meant to fall, and that the falling is not the end of the story. It is the story finding its way to the chapter it was always building toward. The numbers are not appearing despite the chaos. They are appearing because of it, because chaos is how the universe makes room. The soul contract hidden in the timing. What if you chose this? Not the pain, not the loss, not the specific texture of the hardest moments, but the path, the arc, the series of experiences precisely calibrated to shape you into the version of yourself that your soul came here to become. This is the concept of the soul contract. And it is one of the most ancient and cross-cultural ideas in the history of spiritual thought. The understanding that before incarnating into physical form, the soul, in its full awareness and wisdom, participates in the design of the life it is about to live. Not as a passive assignment, but as a conscious choice, a sacred agreement between the soul and the intelligence of the universe about what experiences, what relationships, what challenges, and what awakenings this particular lifetime will contain. Indigenous traditions across 6 continents carry versions of this understanding. Ancient Egyptian spiritual philosophy encoded it. Platonic thought approached it. Vedic philosophy built an entire cosmology around it. The same essential truth, arriving through different doors in different centuries in different languages, pointing toward the same irreducible reality. Not because suffering was desired for its own sake, but because certain depths of wisdom, certain qualities of love, certain expansions of consciousness can only be cultivated through specific kinds of lived experience. You cannot develop patience in a world that gives you everything immediately. You cannot develop resilience without something to push against. You cannot develop compassion without first knowing what it feels like to need it. The soul knows this, and so it agrees, and then it incarnates, and the forgetting begins. The full awareness of the contract fades beneath the layers of human experience, of conditioning, of fear, of the very real and very heavy weight of being alive in a body, in a world that rarely reflects back the invisible truth of what we are and why we are here. The veil descends not as punishment but as necessity, because the lessons can only be learned if they are fully lived, and they can only be fully lived if the soul temporarily forgets that it chose them, and yet the contract remains active. The path remains set. The turning points agreed upon before birth arrive precisely on schedule, regardless of whether the conscious mind remembers why. Angel numbers in this framework are activation codes. They are markers embedded in the timeline of a soul contract, placed at the coordinates of significant transitions, not to reveal the full design, because some things must be lived to be understood, but to confirm that the design is real, that the path is unfolding as agreed, that the soul has not strayed, that what is happening, even when it makes no sense from the surface of a human life, makes complete and perfect sense from the vantage point of the soul that chose it. This is why the timing never feels random. This is why the numbers appear not just anywhere but precisely in the moments of greatest significance, greatest pressure, greatest longing, greatest transition. Because those are the moments the contract marked. Those are the coordinates where the activation codes were placed. The moments of greatest pressure are precisely the moments of greatest precision, and the fact that you are seeing them, that you are feeling them, that something in you has been unable to dismiss them no matter how many times the mind tried is not a coincidence. It is confirmation. The contract is being honored. The path is unfolding. And the soul that agreed to all of this in its full wisdom and love is still here, still present, still guiding you from the only level where the full picture has always been visible. You did not stumble into this moment. You were always going to arrive here. How to respond. When the universe is calling, you have been receiving the message. The question now is not whether the signs are real. You already know they are. The question is what you do with that knowing. Because there is a profound difference between a person who notices the signs and a person who answers them. And that difference, that single distinction between observation and response, determines everything that follows. Most people, when they begin to recognize angel numbers, do one of two things. They either obsess over them, tracking every occurrence, searching for confirmation, building an entire architecture of meaning around the frequency of appearances, and in doing so, shifting their energy from trust into anxiety. The obsession becomes its own kind of fear, dressed in spiritual language. Or they acknowledge them briefly, feel the warmth of the recognition for a moment, and then return to the same patterns, the same fears, the same ways of moving through the world that the signs were appearing precisely to interrupt. The recognition becomes a comfort that changes nothing. Neither of these is answering the call. Answering the call is something quieter and far more radical than either of those responses. It is the decision, made not once but again and again in the small moments of each day, to trust the intelligence of the process you are inside, to release the grip of the need to control the how, to stop trying to force the outer circumstances of your life into the shape your fear thinks they need to take in order for everything to be okay, to stop negotiating with the universe about the terms of your own transformation. Because here is what the law of vibration understands and fear never will. The outer world does not create your frequency. Your frequency creates your outer world. And the angel numbers appearing in your life are not just pointing toward a future. They are inviting you to become right now in this moment, before the outer circumstances have shifted, the vibrational version of yourself that the future you are moving toward requires. The future does not wait for you to become ready. It calls you toward becoming ready. And the numbers are the sound of that call. This means something very specific in practice. It means that when you see 555 and feel the fear of change, you do not perform courage. You choose it. Quietly, internally. By releasing one small grip on what no longer belongs to the life you are becoming. It means that when you see 444 and feel the loneliness of transition, you do not wait for external proof of support. You practice the internal recognition that support exists at a level deeper than what is currently visible. It means that when you see 111 and your mind is swimming in worst-case scenarios, you deliberately, consciously, redirect your attention toward what you want to create rather than what you fear losing. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending that everything is fine when it is not. This is the most honest and courageous thing a human being can do in the middle of uncertainty. Choosing to trust the frequency of becoming over the frequency of fear. Choosing to be an active participant in your own transformation rather than a passive recipient of whatever the currents of change decide to do with you. Choosing, again and again, in the face of everything that says otherwise, to orient toward what is arriving rather than what is leaving. The universe has been calling, with numbers, with timing, with the persistent, undeniable feeling that something larger is at work in your life than what the surface currently reflects. And the response it is asking for is not a ritual, not a prayer formula, not a specific sequence of spiritual practices. It is simply this: show up for your own becoming. Release what was never yours to keep. Trust what your soul already knows. And take one step, just one, in the direction your deepest knowing has been pointing. The rest will follow. It always does. You are always going to arrive here. Do you remember the question that was placed at the beginning of this video? Why now? You have the answer now. Not as information, as recognition, the kind that lands in the body before the mind has finished processing it, the kind that feels less like learning something new and more like remembering something ancient, the kind that does not create new questions, but quietly dissolves the ones you have been carrying. The numbers were never about predicting your future. They were never a spiritual forecast or a cosmic schedule of coming events. They were always something far more intimate than that. They were the universe confirming, at the precise moments when you most needed confirmation, that you are not outside the plan, that there is no version of your life in which you are lost, that what has felt like wandering was always, from a higher vantage point, the most direct path available. The detours were not detours. They were the path, shaped differently than you expected. Every number you saw on a clock at 3 a.m. when sleep would not come. Every repeated sequence that appeared on the day of a difficult decision, in the hour of a quiet grief, in the moment between what was and what you could not yet see coming. Every time you looked up from the weight of your own life and found a pattern waiting there, patient and precise and impossibly well-timed. All of it was placed. All of it was precise. All of it was the language of an intelligence that has never stopped tracking your soul, never stopped supporting your becoming, never stopped sending confirmation through the only channel that could bypass your defenses and reach the part of you that still knew how to listen. You were always going to arrive here, to this video, to this understanding, to this moment of recognition, not because your path was predetermined in every detail, but because the soul that lives inside you made an agreement with the universe before it forgot its own name. And that agreement included this: that when the time came, when the season of your greatest becoming arrived, you would be found, you would be reached, you would be prepared. No matter how far the forgetting had taken you, the signal would be strong enough to reach you. And it was. The discomfort you have been carrying is not a sign that something went wrong. It is the sensation of becoming someone larger than the life you have been living. The uncertainty is not evidence of abandonment. It is the space that opens when the old structure releases its form to make room for the new one. The longing you have felt, that persistent, inexplicable hunger for something you could not fully name, was never a wound. It was a compass, pointing with extraordinary accuracy toward the version of your life that your soul has always known was possible, and has always known was real. And the numbers? They were never the message. They were the messenger. The real message was always the same. In every sequence, at every hour, in every moment of recognition that made you pause in the middle of an ordinary day and feel, for just a breath, that the ordinary was not ordinary at all, that you were standing inside something far larger and far more purposeful than the surface of any given moment could contain. The message was this: you are seen. You are held. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. And what is coming for you is so much greater than what you are being asked to release. Stop searching for more signs. You have received them. What the universe is asking of you now is not more seeking. It is not more analysis, more research, more attempts to decode what has already been delivered. It is the quiet, radical, life-altering act of trusting what you already know, of allowing the recognition that has been building inside you throughout everything you have just heard to become the ground you stand on, rather than one more thing you carry. You were always going to arrive here, and now that you have, the only thing left to do is step forward into the life that has been waiting for you to finally believe you deserve it. It was always yours. It always will be.